Bruce, Michael McCormack, right, has kept his job as Leader of the Nationals and Deputy Prime Minister after beating former Leader Barnaby Joyce in a vote today of Nationals MP. Does this end the matter, do you think, and restore stability to the Nationals and to the government, who kind of like this?
Look, I don't think so. I think Joyce is the sort of character who's never going to be satisfied with just being a team player unless he's leading the team. And we've seen this in his behaviour in the past, and I think we'll see it again. He's a disruptor. He likes the politics of disruption. He likes being an idiosyncratic character, and he plays that role particularly well. So I don't see it changing, and I'd be interested to hear from Renee about how the vote really went, but I suspect it was pretty close in the end, and that will only encourage Joyce to have another crack further down the line, particularly since McCormack is a pretty unimpressive, underwhelming character. Mind you, I've got no time for Joyce. I think he's hopeless, but I think this just goes to the state of the National Party right now, that they seem to be terribly divided and don't have their eye on the ball.
Look, Renee, I get what Bruce is saying about Barnaby Joyce being a disruptor. He won't stay quiet. But on the other hand, I have to say, he didn't do this on his own. I mean, there were at least, by my count, 8, 9 or 10 of the 21 Nationals that were prepared to back him in this challenge. What's your reading of how, what the support was?
Look, I think it was pretty high. It was probably about 9-12. I take Bruce's point about, you know, Barnaby being a disruptor, but I think he also genuinely believes that he could do a better job. So yes, there would have been a bit of self-interest there, and also there have been colleagues, you know, at least 10 and maybe more, who have been agitating, saying we're not getting what we need, we're being trampled on by the Liberals, we need a stronger coalition agreement. Let's be honest, then Michael McCormack did not win the Nationals their seats at the last election. It was Scott Morrison. Now, with the feeling that Scott Morrison might be a little bit wounded after the bushfires, there is a feeling among the Nats that they will probably need a stronger leader at the next election if Morrison cannot recover. I mean, that is exactly what they're talking about internally. And the other issue too is that what wins are the Nats getting? I mean, they celebrate 100 years this year, 100 years. But, you know, as much as you want to complain about Barnaby Joyce, when he was, you know, the Deputy Prime Minister, he got some extraordinary outcomes for regional Australia and for the National Party.
I think that's right, because don't forget, politicians are in politics often not just to win an election, but to make a difference. And if you're just there making up the numbers, intensely frustrating. Bruce, Adam Bandt celebrated his first day as the new leader of the Greens by again blaming Scott Morrison for the fires, etc., etc. Does this kind of attack help win him votes? I mean, for a start, it seems the most radical leader to me that the Greens have had.
Look, he certainly does seem to be. But remember, with the Greens, it's all about trying to bolster that group on the fringe, the left sort of fringe of politics, that they need to get their 1 and 2 senators and and 1 or 2 members of the lower house. They're not trying to be a broad-based party. They're not. They never have been. They're not a particularly democratic party, by the way. I mean, the fact that they have to have their election within 24 hours of the old leader going out, with no rank and file participation, no public involvement in their conferences. This all goes to, you know, to the problems with the Greens. I think there's deep-seated hypocrisy in their ranks. But I don't think that going over the top the way Bandt seemed to be going today is really going to do too much to endear him to the broader public. But does he really need to be endearing himself to them, or is he just there to make sure that the percentages that he needs in the Senate and in a couple of seats in Victoria are maintained? And that's what he's thinking about,
look,
I suspect.
That, again, Bruce, that is a good point. But Renee, to appeal to the fringe so clearly is to say that you are of the fringe. And there was a time, in fact, the former leader, Richard Di Natale, said when he took over 5 years ago, he wanted the Greens actually to grow into essentially a rival to the main parties with 20% of the vote. I don't know that Adam Bandt has those ambitions.
No, and I think their support come from fringe groups that to be frank, break the law. Extinction Rebellion, you know, a number of climate activists, that is their base now. And also, occasionally, it's those doctors' wives in Melbourne and Sydney. I think with Adam Bandt, though, he's worried about what Labor does now when it comes to climate policy, because it can't be too similar. He needs to go further than Labor, and so I think he'll enjoy doing that. I mean, there's no way the coalition will ever out-green Labor or the Greens, and the Greens won't do any deals with the Liberal Party on climate. And I think to maintain relevancy, they need to go even further than what Anthony Albanese will do. But we don't know what that is yet, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Now, Bruce, you agreed with me when I suggested that Adam Bandt might be the most radical leader the Greens have ever had since they were formed by Bob Brown. Can I read to you, quote to you, and tell me when you've had enough? This is going to be torture for you. From the PhD thesis that Adam Bandt wrote defending Marxist thought. Give me a whistle when it's enough. Karl Marx, he writes, and later the Soviet jurist Evgeny Pashukhanis, both argue that the legal subject arises from exchange relations peculiar to capitalism. By taking the point of departure, blah, blah, blah. Even I'm getting bored with this.
Perfectly obvious to anybody, isn't it, really, what he's saying?
Marx and this guy yield riches for the analysis of law. The critique of Gewalt theory thereby becomes one of the demonstrating the force inherent in labour relations, blah, blah. Look, I give up.
Yeah.
I give up. He's a Marxist. Always has been, seems to me. He can contradict me if he wants. Is this going to fly? Where are the Greens going? Is this one of those watermelons that we were told of, green on the outside, red on the in?
Well, it certainly sounds like it. And look, the real problem for the Green Party is that there is a significant schism between people who would be genuine environmentalists and don't have a Marxist analysis, and those who saw the Green Party with the failure of the Communist Party back in the 1980s to enter the Green Party and take it over. And that's what a number of them have tried to do. And that schism between those Marxists in the Greens and the genuine environmentalists, like, say, the Bob Browns of this world, has been ongoing for years now. And it's not something they like to talk about, but it goes back to what I was saying before. You know, they hold their conferences in secret. They don't let the media in, and they don't allow rank and file participation in the election of the leader, like the Labor Party does. So you know, it's that, in that regard, it's good old Soviet style politics, the top down.
You're right, but the question now is whether we're ready for a Marxist to lead a party that shares the balance of power in the Senate. Renee Viellaris and Bruce Hawker, thank you both so much for your time.